Alright, you guys know the drill. You see this little dog, that means that I had an audio error again, and you will be just listening to my camera's audio instead of my audio recorded on a separate device. This time, it is not because I deleted it accidentally, but because I had an audio error. Hello, and welcome back. Today we are going to do another one of those videos where I got responses from you guys. So I put out a little potential hook, a little video idea, like, hey, if I get enough responses, I'll make a video. And boy, did I get responses, way more than I thought I would. Basically, I asked you for the first lines of your books or your works in progress, just because I was curious and I wanted to see. This was kind of a suggestion from somebody who was like, what if you ask for first lines and then you critique them? And I don't know if I'm going to be critiquing them, especially because I don't personally think first lines are like the most important thing in a book, and also there's a lot of them, so I'll more just be like reading them, sharing them, maybe giving my opinion on some, but I can't promise that I'm gonna like hardcore critique like every single one. If there's one that I especially like or one that doesn't necessarily grab me, I'll probably say so, but like don't take this as like my professional advice as a developmental editor. Now I will speak to you as a developmental editor. If I edit your book, I'll speak to you about your opening, especially your opening lines, but your first line is not usually the most important thing. However, it can be fun to have a really catchy first line. I don't go that way myself, but some people love it. Let us check out the first lines. I asked people to give me the first line and then the title of the story that it's coming from, or the working title, and whether it's a work in progress or whether it's published. So if any of these first lines speak to you and you want to seek out any of these things, go to, my friends. So let's go. The first line is, "The Eagle Palace is a marvel," thought Prince Christian as he set it on fire. From The Newell Prince and the Angel King, which is a work in progress translated from Spanish. Woohoo. I mean, that one, it's catchy. It's catchy right away. And we have a character doing a thing, which is like my main advice if you're struggling with your first line. If you're like, what should my first line be? I don't know where to begin. Named character doing an action. I don't care what action, but this guy is lighting a palace on fire, and that seems pretty effective. Onward, this next line is, "A lone weasel slunk through the doors of the Pig's Pearl Tavern." Now, while the weasel isn't a named character, it is still a character of some kind doing something. It does make us curious about what's going to happen next. This is from a work in progress titled Rogues Paid Gold, Riffraff and Runaways, taking place in the fantasy world of anthropomorphic animals. Okay, so the weasel is an anthropomorphic weasel, like Redwall. So it's not just like a little animal, it's like a person. Sorry, I'm adjusting where things are sitting because I need this closer to me. If I'm looking off to the side, that's because that's where my tablet is with all of your first lines on it. All right, the next one is, "I hate boats. I hate boats more than I hated leaving Port Titan." This person doesn't say what the title of their work in progress is, but they do say that it's from the perspective of a dragon rider who is not used to flying slowly, much less having to follow the pace of a boat. Okay. This next one is, "From the windows of the carriage, Hyacinth could see the floating parts of the city." Ooh, a lot of intrigue in that one. We're immediately like, what? Ooh, floating city? This is from a, oh my goodness, I can't read. Melioration of Fantasia, which is a work in progress, also in the very first draft. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that first word. I have a good vocabulary sometimes. This next one is, "When night falls upon the conquered castle, when the endless corridors of the dungeons empty and silence shrouds the cells, darkness visits me." From the work in progress, The Blood of Darkness. I mean, you got darkness in the title and darkness in the first line. We are on brand. Darkness is also capitalized in "Darkness Visits Me," which definitely makes me think that darkness is an entity of some kind that is visiting. Next line. "When at last she had a moment of peace, Satomi retreated riverside to where the air was cooler, thinner, and better to flush the cloying stench of blood." I don't know if I would call blood smell cloying, but other than that, we definitely have a lot of action. We have a named character doing something. This person says, "This is from what will likely be my heart book, a military romantasy inspired by feudal Japan. It's called The Sea Between Islands." This next one is, "I knew full well there wouldn't be enough left of him to lay on the funeral pyre, even though his wife swore he was still alive." Lot going on in that one. A little bit confusing. like, possibly in a good way, like, what's going on? Like, how is there both not enough of this person to put on a funeral pyre and someone who believes that they're still alive at the same time? Are we looking at a body? Like, definitely makes me want to get more information and read more. It's from the Chronicles of Liz. Oh my god, I did not anticipate that I would be struggling so much reading everyone's titles. Like, that was not something that I thought would be happening. Liz Kea? Strength of Alejandro. It's a work in progress, so that is a working title. Next one. Ned was pissed. That piano had come out of nowhere, literally. This is from a work in progress with no working title yet, but Ned is a woman who gets killed by a piano in the first scene. And she spends the rest of the book as a ghost. I'm kind of in. We don't honestly have enough books from the point of view of ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, this next first line is, "The scourge lay waiting, watching ghosts pass in the window." From the work in progress titled Wellspring. So we have a named character who's doing something, laying in wait, and there are ghosts passing a window, which again, most of these first lines are doing a really good job of making you wonder, like, what? I need to read more and find out what that meant. Which is a very popular thing to do with your first line, is to make your reader go, what? So they want to keep reading to understand. This one says, Duncan sat at the edge of the thin mattress, elbows resting on his knees, looking down at the concrete floor. He opened and closed his hands with slow, deliberate movements. From the work in progress, The Trans Garden. So I said I wasn't going to critique these, but I do have like a couple small notes, if you don't mind. You don't have to listen to me. I'm not your developmental editor unless you want to hire me. But this is a little bit less grabby of a first line than the others. Not necessarily a bad thing, because like I said, for my personal taste, first lines don't matter as much to me. It does, like, it's very static, this first line. So, something to think about. You don't have to take my advice at all. You could leave it exactly the way it is if you're happy with it. This next one is, red and blue light flashed against the disco ball, and the world belonged to Flora Swan. It is from I Can See the Year in Your Eyes. It is a work in progress, but it is quite far along in editing. So there's a disco ball, so presumably we are at some kind of dance or party, and Flora is feeling good. This one is just, I might not get to eat today. From a new adult post-apocalyptic work in progress, The Broken Island. All right, that one just, again, that drags us along with, like, we want to know what's going on. Why? Who is this person and why don't they get to eat? This next one, boy, some of these feel like they relate to each other. It's kind of like, I'm just reading down the line. So this one is 4 loaves of bread fused in the oven this morning. Ooh, I actually really like that one. I don't know why, because it doesn't even follow my rules of having a character doing something, but it, like, speaks to a weird kind of mystery that makes me want to go, oh, what does that mean? It is from a work in progress titled Collar and Crown. The next one is, it wasn't advisable, but I often decided to take my most treasured possessions to sea. A stack of papers that had grown several inches thick, folded and wrapped in ribbons. This is from Where the Mountains Meet the Sea, a fantasy romance work in progress. Again, this one, I would maybe rework it a little bit. It's a little on the wordy side. Maybe try to get the fact that this person is taking papers to sea earlier. Up to you. Again, you didn't hire me to be your developmental editor, and these are just like my initial thoughts, but I'm only seeing the first line. I'm not seeing like the first paragraph or anything, so keep that in mind. This line says, Grandma's not too concerned, not when strangers knock on the front door in the dead of night, not while they're trying to break in. Okay, this is from a short horror piece that was written for the collection Run Rabbit Run. The story is called Grandma's a Rabbit Farm. It is confusing, and for me, this line doesn't draw me in as some of the other ones did. Like, yes, I want to know, like, why Grandma doesn't care, but it feels almost a little too forced for me. Like, it's trying too hard, for me, it's trying too hard to make me confused and want to keep reading. Does that make sense? Again, I said I wasn't going to critique these, but every now and then I run into one where I'm like, Thoughts that I have. Obviously, and I keep saying it, you don't have to take my thoughts seriously. Somebody in the comments might comment down below and say that they absolutely loved a first line that didn't work for me. The next one is, the first time Sarah saw him was at the market, just before it closed for the Zenith rest. work in progress called Nephilim. Oh my god, I can read. It's just called Nephilim, and it's translated from Swedish. I've got a couple of translated works here going on. This one is, the 4 Dawnblade stationed in this temple had their eyes fixed on the corpse that sat on the bench by the front door. This is also from a work in progress. No title given. Again, this one is a little, like, wordy for me. And I don't really, it's not even that long. It's just the way that the words are arranged, it makes my reading experience stutter. I feel like first lines are extremely subjective, and I would have to read your first paragraph to see if it kept up with that sort of stuttering feeling, or if that was just kind of the first line. Next we have, like stepping through a portal, the sense of pine and rain welcomed their mistress in her morning descent. Interesting. It's giving us a lot because we understand immediately that this world has portals and a mistress of them. I'm not 100% sure about it because, like, we don't have enough information to know how the sense of pine and rain is like stepping through a portal. But again, we only have the first line. This is from a book that they've been working on for over a decade. The title is Magic Fire. This next one, in the summer, the winds of Galea grew humid and the days grew long. This is from the work in progress and first fantasy novel. I'm about 20 pages into. Oh goodness, so this is a very, very early first line and very, very likely to be subject to change. I find that I change my beginnings more than most other parts of my book. The title is The Traveling Moon. Next we have, in 15 short minutes, Nova O'Brien was going to the moon. Ooh, exciting. This is from a work in progress, a first draft, and the second book in a sci-fi trilogy with a working title, Cosmic Possession. Immediately my alarms are going off because her last name is O'Brien, and this is a deep cut, but if anybody watches Star Trek Deep Space Nine, we all know that O'Brien is like the whipping boy. Like, everything bad happens to him. It's just like, what terrible thing is gonna happen to O'Brien today? So just the last name O'Brien is making me afraid for this character. And if you did that on purpose, 10 out of 10, no notes. That's the sort of weird deep cut that I like to include in my books, and like 99.9% of people are gonna miss. This next line, short and sweet, without a doubt, everything is magic. Definitely breaks my rule of character doing activity, but like I said, that quote-unquote rule is really just more of a suggestion for getting you started if you're struggling with your first line.
The code is more what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
This is from a completed work. It's a debut that they self-published last year. It's called Child of Death Volume 1, Daughter of Death, and it's under Anexis Matos, Anexis Matos. So this is the first like published one of these that you can like go and read. So if that first line grabbed you, maybe go check this out. The next line is, we've been lucky so far, no mountain lions, said the man riding just ahead, looking up at the cliff on the right side of the mountain pass. This is from Northern Garrison, a work in progress. That is the working title. It does, like, it sets the scene and it gives us a potential danger, so those are often good things. Oh, my tablet's running out of battery, so I need to hurry. This next one says, actually, Semja didn't mind his father being executed. Oh my. This is the first line of Those Who Lie, which is a work in progress, but hoping that it will be traditionally published. This is from a work in progress as well. I'm never getting married. It's a fantasy romance. Well, that is a pretty solid way to start a fantasy romance. Says girlie is married by chapter 3. Hey, she made it pretty far. Some of these girlies don't even make it to chapter 3. This next one is Our Hunt, I Feel, is Drawing to an End. The title is Half a Soul Apart, and it is finished. They do not say if it is published, however. If you are watching this and you would like to answer, is it published? Are you planning to publish? Like, what are you doing with it? I'm curious. This one is When the War Ended, I returned to the snowy ruins of old Thule. I'm no doubt mispronouncing everything. Without him, it wasn't the same. The roofless chapel held no magic now. The stones told no stories. ... Gil. This is from Yesaya. All the Promised Burned, which is a work in progress. All these fantasy names, really highlighting how bad I am at pronouncing fantasy names. This next one is He Was Her Father, Yet She Hated Him, from Between the Heart and the Mind, which is a work in progress. I think a lot of people, you'll find, hate their fathers. This one is, It was an early morning when the heavy clang of ancient church bells rang out over Desterville,
signaling the start of the day for the sleeping townsfolk. This is from a work in progress that they have multiple working titles for, but none are the final title. This, again, is a bit on the bland side as far as opening lines go. Obviously, we are only seeing the first line and not the first paragraph, but for me to be grabbed by a first line, I prefer it to be more active, if you will. The next one is, some would say that the meteor was only the second least likely thing to strike Valeris that evening. Interesting. This is a work in progress for NaNoWriMo under the very tentative title, Shards of Divinity. This first line is just the Mojave Desert. Just the Mojave Desert. That's all you need. It's from a long fic called The More Things Change. Forgot how goofy it sounds without the entire opening paragraph. Yeah, I mean, like, your first line is basically never going to stand alone without the opening paragraph unless you've got somebody like me doing a video like this. All right, I plugged my tablet in, but now the cord is in danger of pulling it off of my little table, so we'll see how this goes. Next we have, the flap of the Pegasi's wings and the creaking stagecoach in the air provided a calming sound to my meditation. Interesting. So we are starting with a scenario that seems like kind of nerve-wracking, but the character is actually very calmed by it. So that's an interesting like juxtaposition there. It's from a work in progress called Mug Chocolate Chip Cookie. Yes, I give all my projects a food name because it will be intimidating otherwise. Interesting. I don't know, I'm not intimidated by my works in progress, but if you are, consider trying that. Give them a silly food name so they're not scary. This one says red, yellow, Aliminala? I can't pronounce anybody's fantasy names. Stopped mid-thought, flattening the poof of her ruffly skirt and stooping down to pick up the fallen maple leaf, mottled both red and yellow. And it is from in between a finished surreal sci-fi fantasy novella. But is it published? Like, yes, it's finished, but finished as in you finished the first draft, or finished as in it's out in the world, or somewhere in the middle there, like has it maybe been edited but you haven't published it yet? I'm just curious. Feel free to share. As first lines go, for me personally, that was a little bit too much on the passive side. Like, I don't have a reason to care about this woman or the maple leaves, but like I said, it is just a first line, so the rest of the paragraph might draw me in more. Okay, here we go, pronouncing names. Luciano D'Angelo looked at the setting sun through the metal ring of the safety pin before he pulled it out of the grenade with his teeth. This is not part of the first line. The author says, yes, this is very painful and bad for your teeth. It's mentioned in the next paragraph. This is also a work in progress. They're not sure about the title yet, but they're thinking right now, Hell Hath No Fury. I have always heard it called a pin in a grenade, but never a safety pin. So immediately, like, as I was reading, I pictured a safety pin, like a pin that you put in your clothing and stuff. And then I found out it was grenade. And I don't know if that's, like, are they called safety pins? Is that what they're actually called? This one says, green sun, violet sky, everything felt wrong, have I lost my mind? From the work in progress that is going to beta reader soon, we are not given a title. For me, this is a nope, but that, again, that's just me and my taste. If you're gonna start out with green sun, violet sky, I don't know if you need everything felt wrong. I think you could have I lost my mind, because the reader can infer that those things aren't normal. Unless you're setting us up in a fantasy world, we can understand that those aren't normal things. The next one is very simple. It is just Stir the Air from a work in progress titled Annoyingly You. I wonder, is this a romance perhaps? Next we have I'm an immortal vampire stuck listening to an inaccurate retelling of the first Jamestown settlers in Mr. Oliver's sophomore American history class, all because of an overzealous truancy officer. And it is from a work in progress called Vampires of Westlake High School. Personally, again, personal taste, I don't like stories that just like start out being like, this is where I am. Even if it kind of got funny at the end, I just want, like, throw me right into the action. Like, let me hear some of the lecture, or, you know, put me in the scene instead of just telling me where you are. Personal preference. They do have a second work though, and the opening line of that one is, the king was dead and none mourned. Catchy. You want to know why nobody's mourning? And that was the prologue first line. The first line of their first chapter is, the game of power is akin to a card game, but instead of gambling wealth, players gamble lives, influence, and hope. And our final first line of this video is Syrian. Of course it would be one where I have to try to pronounce the name, ignored the prickle of fear running through him as he entered the gaping maw of the cavern. And it is a work in progress for NaNoWriMo called Bloodhound. Unfortunately, I don't have too much to say about that one either way. I think it works fine, but I would want to read more. I have a couple of my books here that I could just read you the first lines from. I will probably disobey my own quote-unquote rules.
Guidelines.
And my first lines are probably pretty boring, but let me read you. Here's from Adventurer Mage, which you can purchase now on Amazon. Maeve tucked herself behind the densely packed shelves, relishing the coolness of the marble floor through the thin soles of her shoes. Next, we have Boots here. What is the first line of Boots? The first time Princess Joanna encountered the Shades, she was 11 years old. I think I have since actually tweaked that first line since this copy came out. This is a slightly older copy, but it is the same sentiment. The first line of Second Floor, my supernatural thriller, which people either loved or hated, but I really love. Anemic snowflakes fell at intervals, landing but not sticking to the rugged red brick. Thrilling. You do kind of have to read the rest of the paragraph. And From the Wolf and the Hawk, my fantasy romance, again available on Amazon. The frost on the grass was just thawed enough to be slick, and Rayoni took full advantage as she pressed her attack. Bam. And just for funsies, I'm gonna go grab my current work in progress and read that first line, because we're all having fun here. All right, this is the first line of the first draft of my work in progress called The Hearthkeeper's War. Working title, although I think I am going to keep it. I think that's going to be the title. Potentially it might be moved to being the title of book 2 because there's more war in book 2, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So working title, The Hearthkeeper's War. If you want to keep up with like my process writing this book, I have been doing short vlogs, so like shorts as in YouTube shorts, or I've also been doing it over on Instagram as reels, talking about where I am and my progress. And if you want even more details, you can become a patron. Patrons get access to a writing Discord where we talk about our books and share things about our writing. And I like to share, along with other people, we share small excerpts from our writing projects that day. So my first line is, the clanging of the city bell woke Sparrow so abruptly that she sat bolt upright and struck her head on the slanted ceiling. That is a work in progress first draft opening line. It may very well change, but that's what I've got. Also, a little reminder, if you notice me not being able to help myself critiquing some of these, I am a developmental editor, and so if you want to know how your opening is doing as a whole versus like just your opening lines are really hard to judge because there's often more after that gives more details. But if you want some help working on your opening or your whole project, you can contact me over on Fiverr and I will help you out. I'm very affordable and I'm pretty fast. So like, give me a try as your editor. Your first 5K words are only $25 to try me out and see if we would be a good partnership. And if we are, and you like the way that I edit, I could be your editor for life, maybe even. Like once you find an editor that you like, they could potentially be your editor forever, and you don't have to keep doing the editor hunt. So find me on Fiverr and see if we click. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching this video, for joining me for all of these silly, goofy, fun times. I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
You have the anger of a much taller woman.
Oh, I am angry, Jarl. I'm 7 feet tall angry.
Don't worry though, my anger is only aimed at bad books, not at my beloved patrons. Patrons like Jennifer, Nemo, Tactical Hot Dog, Haley History Nerd, Stephanie, Pixelizzy, Raya, Christina, Cameron, Lady Kragan, Jose, Lunar Muse, AJ, Marshy, Semi-Dark, GK, Scout, K, Annika, Jen, Gay Tutter, Tina, Laknunga, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sarah, Cat, 78 Kilograms of Shade, Veda, Roma, Pansing Pony, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaro, Mooney, Pudamancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ, Lafone, Mufflier, Celia, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Swamp Goblin, Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Vampire Antihero, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, and Lisa. The year's almost over, and I can't believe that I have even more amazing patrons. Hello to all of the new patrons, but special shout out to all of the longtime patrons who have been here for the long haul. All of you are MVPs, and I hope you're enjoying your time here in my Patreon.